All right, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. The city of Cotulla City Council will meet for a regular meeting on Thursday, July 14, 2022, at 7 p.m. at the Alexander Convention Center, Conference Room 290 North I-35, Exes Road, Cotulla, Texas. This is an open meeting subject to open meeting laws of the state of Texas. Roll call. I believe we have Mr. Ayala is missing.
He had COVID.
He had COVID?
Yeah.
Mr. Ayala has COVID, so I need a first motion to excuse Mr. Ayala. First motion by Mr. Rodriguez. I need a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Handul Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Will everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens to be heard. City Council cannot discuss any pressing issue, no any action be taken on any issue at this time. Ms. City Secretary, is there any citizens to be heard?
No, sir, no one's signed up.
No citizens to be heard. Moving on to item number 5, departmental and committee reports.
We have some people out with COVID, and we have some that are in class and others that are on vacation. So we have Robbie Thomas and Jimmy and Karina that are going to give a report.
Jimmy, would you like to go first, please?
Yes.
Thank you. You would be doing wastewater and wastewater?
Yes, sir.
Is that including gas or?
Yes.
I don't have the gas report.
All right, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Dolina. I'll start off with the water report. For the month of June, the aquifer has lost 30 feet of water, and right now we're sitting at 523 feet. The water demand for the month of June was 45,815,000 gallons, with a daily demand of 1.9 million. Also, the well 9, it's been repaired and completed, and the well is back in service as well. We also have the elevated tower. It's back in service. We are currently waiting on AEP to open the services. Once AEP has opened the power, and all the electrical has been completed, the city of Cotulla will be hosting a ribbon cutting ceremony for the water tower. And we're also waiting to hear back from TDM on their deadline was June 30th to see if we're going to receive money for the projects that we have. Is there any questions for?
Yeah, I have several questions. What's the status on the generator that
That was part of the TDM.
okay, and when do you estimate that?
I figure that it's going to be 30 days from June the 30th.
June 30th?
Yeah.
What level of water level? You said 523 feet. What level do we go to water restrictions?
That is on the agenda. It's an agenda item.
And do you have individuals in your department that goes throughout the city where they see and monitor water leaks through the city property on every street?
We did the last time when we went to water restrictions about 4 years ago, and we did do that.
But do they do it like once a week or anything like that?
No, they do it every day.
Every day?
Yeah, and we try to get people to not water between 7 and 7.
Yeah.
And we advertise it as well so that people know.
Because two individuals called me today in regards of there's a water leak on their street. Maybe you can look into it. Do you know where Dan's Butane is, the office, where they have offices there? I believe Mr. Manuel Farias lives at Martinez Street.
That's that,
Hickey?
little alley. Yeah, no, the next one over where Leodoro lives on the backside.
Yes, that one. The far end on Goodwin.
On the
Yes,
backside?
Yeah.
yes, ma'am. I spoke with Jesse on that leak, and they're gonna do it tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. And
Yes,
the
sir.
other one is close to Ms. Hassel. She mentioned also there's a leak on her street.
And Arturo
What street is
Gonzalez.
Correct. Yeah,
Arturo
if you can
Gonzalez or
monitor.
Lalo Gonzalez?
Mándeme.
Is it Lalo Gonzalez?
It's on the street where Mr. Rubén Salinas lives. Is that street that hits?
The one going to Atilano lift station?
Correct. Somewhere in
Okay,
there.
I did see that. That was also called in for locates.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that.
No problem. I don't have much on the wastewater.
The generators, that we have the design ready, but we were told by Texas Department of Emergency Management that they had a lot of money available and they told us to apply. So we applied to the grant. But we also got permission on the loan from Texas Water Development Board that we had some money left over from the well 9 that he just spoke about, that I think we have $300,000 or $400,000, but the project is about $1.2 million. So we're gonna do combinations of funds, and we think we're gonna get something from Texas Department of Emergency Management.
Is there any way that that I can have or give me a scope of the streets that are being repaired right now, like Baker Street and the one that hits where?
Yeah, we can make a list. I'll call Jorge. It's a county project, so it did come to us. It came to them.
Yeah, I would like that because I had several people on Baker Street that were worried about the drainage problem, and I believe you mentioned to me that there was 3 of them.
We bought the land,
Correct.
and they're currently, if you go look at the site, there's one site on Elm Street, and you can see the channel where they dug it all out
Okay.
to make sure that that water drains so it won't stay.
Okay.
And we bought the property on the very far end, the one that we bought from Nora and from Moralia Sanchez, that we're gonna try to run something pipe or something down there as well.
Were those streets also updated on their water lines and gas lines?
Yes,
They
why don't you
Yes, sir.
talk about that?
Those lines were all. We made sure that the lines were replaced. The saddles, there were old metal saddles. We put stainless steel, and so it wouldn't corrode. The services that were bad, we replaced them. There is some asbestos lines that we are looking at also replacing, but that is going to be a little bit before they do. Once they tear up the road, we'll see how much money we have left over to go ahead and replace that line, so
Okay.
we can get rid of it and have just PVC line. In
If you go down Saltillo, I think it is,
Correct.
and you look at where all of the areas in front of those houses have like a square of the street cut out.
Correct.
It's because they did the services new.
Right.
They were all new. They
Okay.
were all replaced.
Okay.
And we did it in anticipation of the street being paved.
Okay.
You also notice that all of the streets in that particular area, their driveways are all being poured because they're doing that first. So the concrete pads that are there going into the houses, you've seen them. You've seen some that are already done, and you've seen some that are dug out. That's why they're digging them out, because they're gonna put concrete. And the reason you do that is so that you don't drag the dirt and rocks back into the street, because then it acts like sandpaper.
Correct.
Yes.
I have a question. On the removal of the asbestos lines that you were talking about, Jimmy, is there a special company or a special way to remove those pipes?
No, sir. What we'll do is the line will stay in place. It will just be out of service.
Okay. Also, I was gonna ask you the well on Dobie Road.
Yes, sir.
What's the status on the well?
That well, it's back up and running. We tested it, came back, and we had it in service just right before 5 o'clock. One of our employees went and looked at it, and he noticed some water when he went in there. One of the chlorine injectors went out on it, so we're gonna replace that first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How are we doing on the water samples? I know
Yeah.
it's being sent once a week, am I correct?
Yeah, they send them every week,
Everything
and
good on that?
we've always tested negative for E. coli.
Okay.
The water samples, they go. We grab them. We have 8 samples. They're done in the first week and the second week. We try to get them done in the first and second week, and we've had, like Mr. Dolina said, that we've had good samples.
Okay.
The wastewater samples are the ones that we take every week.
The samples are taken from different locations in town?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On the wastewater report, the Texas Water Developmental Board has we're waiting for them to approve the plans, and so we can get a letter. I'm sorry. This is for the sewer line project. The Texas Water Development Board, they have the plans, but we're still waiting on the letter, the notice to proceed, so we can begin construction on that sewer line project.
Is that the one for 624?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then on the wastewater treatment upgrade project, that project is 100% complete on the plans, and we're just it was submitted to Texas Water Development Board, and we're just awaiting their approval.
We're waiting for a meeting that we're gonna have next week so that we can reconcile the amount of money that's left over and all the things that we did to determine how many phases we can actually do. So what we did is we developed it in phases so we can do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and we can pick and choose when we go out on bids. And the bids go out to the plan rooms, and they're available to anybody who wants to bid. The current sewer line is, the low bid is a company out of Houston that has to be approved by Texas Water Development Board with a letter of notice to proceed.
Is there a lift station going to be required for that
No.
use?
It's all gravity.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked, on the last meeting, I asked that, and
Okay.
they responded that it was all gravity.
The reason you want to avoid lift stations is because of the energy cost. So you try to angle the line to where it flows by itself through gravity. And we looked at going to a different kind of pipe to see if we could get the PVC instead of PVC, because PVC is running like $16 a section, right?
Yes, sir.
It's very expensive now. Everything's gone up real high.
Councilman, any other questions for Jimmy?
No, sir.
Thank
Jimmy,
you.
thank you very much for that report. Mr. Thomas?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Mr. Dolina. City of Cotulla hosted a trash-a-rama cleanup, and it was a very successful turnout. We had 5 40-yard containers that were full of miscellaneous debris, and approximately 200 regular tires were collected also. The City of Cotulla street personnel assisted the water department in removing trees that were obstructing and installing a chain link fence to secure the elevated water tower at the city yard. Also, in conjunction with the code enforcement officer, we demolished a structure at 802 Velasquez Street, and the customer paid a demo fee of $1,500. Also, we utilized the walk-behind saw to cut a square asphalt pavement on Neal Street on a water leak that was repaired by the water department and refill the patch with coal mixed asphalt. That's all I have for the street department. Mr. Martinez is on vacation, so I'll just touch base on the solid waste report. You have your monthly report on your packet, but I would like to touch base on the transfer station. We added some improvements for security purposes. We summoned AEP to install a flood lamp at the entry gate of our location, so our roll-off driver wouldn't have any problems opening the gate, and he would also, we see his surroundings around, because he goes in at about 5 o'clock in the morning. And once inside, we placed one inside by the tipping floor for more illumination. Also, we added in addition, we did a 4x8 sign, which was posted for the customers that reads no scavenging, no unattended children, and we're not responsible for any accidents. So that's the solid waste report.
On the street side, we just finished Ortiz. If you've gone, we've already opened the street. The only thing left to do, we put concrete because we're gonna use the street as a drain. The only thing that's left is to set up the retaining wall on that house that is there so that the dirt doesn't move. And we're gonna remove the dirt that's on the empty lot. And maybe at the next council meeting, that'll be one of the tracts of land that the city purchased it, but we don't have any need for it. So at some point, we need to put it out on bid so that people can bid on it if they want that. And the other tract of land that's over on Saltillo Street that was used by the county for drainage from their park, but since they installed the drainage line, we no longer have need for that lot. And so we probably would also put that one up for sale with your permission. But we'll bring it up for an agenda so you can approve it.
On that property in Ortiz Street, do you foresee that those two big palm trees, would that be on Ortiz Street?
They seem to think that they'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question for.
We did remove the there was some obstruction on the street right away, and we removed that. There is a pipe culvert that the homeowner or the owner of the property put in, and she was worried about our flooding the pipe. We initially tried to purchase an easement, and we were not successful. When we started the project, we had to complete the project according to what we said we were going to do, and we can come back later if she gives us the easement and fix that thing so it's permanent. But we can't do it until the easement is paid. We can't go on private property. What was your question, sir?
I have a question for Mr. Thomas.
Yes,
What is the status on your vehicles at this time? On
Uh,
the equipment.
On what?
On the equipment.
On the city trucks,
Vehicles, yes.
right now everything is operational. I mean, we're using all the vehicles. They're in service, all of them. As far as the machinery, everything is up to par. I mean, we're using everything also. No problems yet. And on the solid waste, all the garbage trucks are running good right now.
Councilman, any other questions for Mr. Thomas?
No, sir.
Mr. Thomas, thank you very much for
Thank
that
you.
report.
DJ.
Animal
DJ,
control.
On the animal control officer.
Yeah. I want to congratulate publicly the animal control officer. He attended a training seminar, and he is the first animal control officer to be licensed by the state of Texas.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr.
Congratulations.
Thomas.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Dovalina, Mr. Mayor. For the month of June, I had
29 dogs placed in the shelter. 36 of them were taken from the South Texas Brush Puppies, Maddie's Dog Rescue, Four Little Paws, and Canyon Lake Animal Shelter Society. I picked up 10 dead animals off the street. 9 dogs were euthanized. One dog in a trap, and a total of 3 work orders for the month. Other than that, I clean, feed, and sanitize daily, and weed eat and cut the grass around the area. And that's my report.
There is a hole or lack of a fence between the new fence that was put there and the animal shelter. Are you going to address that, or who's going to do that repair?
I believe the contractors were.
Yes, sir. The contractors still have to go back and connect that part of the fence. It was a part of the contract.
Just make sure it's done.
Yes, sir. All they needed was for the trees there to be removed so they can connect to the new fence.
Okay.
Any questions?
Have you had any adoptions lately on anybody that want to adopt a puppy or a cat?
Just locally, or? Yeah, I had one last week. Or
Last week?
2 weeks ago, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And I believe I have 3 more going out tomorrow.
Okay, that's good.
That's with the people involved with the animal shelter thing that take the dogs to the...
No.
No,
Well,
you got another.
the ones tomorrow, they contacted me from Crystal City, so they're gonna pay. They want to pay over the phone tomorrow and then pick them up Saturday. So
I know that Karina's going to be helping us out with a rabies clinic, so we'll wait on her to let us know when she's coordinating with the vet. Okay.
That's good. That's good.
any more?
Councilman, any other questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Gonzalez, thank you very much for the report. Main Street. Ms. Karina?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Mr. Dovalina. In your report, you can find that the Garden Club had a community service project where they planted in the big planters on Front Street. I don't know if you've seen in front of H&R Block where there's a big, pretty pink flower. They went ahead and planted them in the rest of the planters, so we thank them for their efforts in beautification for Front Street. As far as Stockman's Bank, I'll go ahead and cover that in the last, because I do have a material board. And then, of course, our 4th of July celebration took place July 2nd and 3rd at the fairgrounds, which was a great success, and we thank everybody that was involved. And then the Texas Historical Commission, the Quarter 2 reports, they were submitted on Tuesday. And then
When is their meeting this month?
I submitted it to Austin's.
Huh?
I submitted my reports to Austin
No.
as far as the historical.
When are they gonna have their monthly meeting this month?
I wouldn't know. I don't
Can
have
you
that
find out? Because that's when we have Plaza Florita as a Texas historical thing.
date. I don't. Where y'all see best for the material board. If you want to. No, yeah, I do. So, of course, you can see in the first floor, this is going to be the tin ceiling on the first floor. And then this will be the wood bases and then the wall color. You can see right here. And then this is on the actual storefront. This is the awning. The exterior color, the windows, both of these are actually the windows. And then these are the restrooms, which would be the bricks on both of the restrooms on the walls. And then you'll have these 2 colors, which I showed y'all last time. And then this is actually the floor tile for the restrooms. And then this is the base. And then on the second floor, you can find the ceiling color, which kind of all mimic each other. And then both of the walls and the windows for the second floor. So the main feature would obviously be the first floor with the store attached to it.
It'll have ample space for a museum, and we're trying to work with El Camino Real Association out of Nacogdoches to identify Cotulla as one of the stops of El Camino Real and have them put their traveling exhibit when we finish the building. We do have a problem with the air conditioning, and Train is telling us that it's gonna take 4 months to deliver the air conditioning. And we're trying to find somebody that has a lot of work or some pull with Train to see if we can speed that up. But the building looks very nice. It's starting to begin the finishes and everything inside, and you're starting to see what the building is going to look like, and it's very nice.
Councilman, any questions on the colors?
No, sir.
I'm not done. 3 job postings were actually posted in the newspaper this week, including the accountant position, the administrative assistant, and then also the Main Street manager position. And then as Mr. Thomas mentioned, I'm actually working with the Dilly veterinarian. I don't remember her name at the moment, but she actually reached out whenever I took one of my puppies to get neutered. But she wants to have a rabies clinic here, so I'm going to go ahead and coordinate with her and see if the best place to have that and when.
I have a question. I noticed on the website that you had those vacancies that you mentioned, but it doesn't say the deadline.
They're open until filled. So the Main Street manager position, for example, has been open since September, and nobody's applied, so where it's actually open until filled. And it does say those on the applications whenever you click on them.
Okay.
And the assistant city administrator, we did post at TAMIU today because they have a master's in public administration program, and so we may have some responses from there. There are people that are going to be graduating this year, and they'll be looking for work, I would assume.
Yes, they were sent to the career services, so they will be posted and shared with their students as well as alumni.
Okay.
Councilman, any other questions for Ms. Carina?
No, sir.
Not Ms. Carina, thank you very much for that
Thank
report.
you.
Last, city administrator.
We had, I think Bianca mistook the information that I left on her desk for the airport hangar and didn't put it, but we're going to put it on the agenda for the next council meeting. And I reached out to the Diocese of Laredo, and the bishop is on vacation, so we're waiting for him to come back so he and the priest and myself can sit down and discuss the building. The design of the bathrooms at Plaza Florita are currently underway, and we will be constructing on the lots across the property. Some of the money that was used for the purchase of those lots was general fund money. So I've asked Jorge to go back and recalculate the money, because the plaza is now a historic district, so you can legally use the hot funds for the purchase of that building, so we can reverse whatever we did before and be able to get more money into the general fund. I did set up an appointment with Robert Pergoy for before in anticipation of our July 25th meeting, when the amount of total taxable base is released by the appraisal district, and we will use that as a basis for the budget. We do ask that if you have items that you think need to be purchased, that you give me a list so I can get them to Jorge, and we can start setting them up within that budget. We do budgets once a year, and we try to put in all the money. I'm not sure what I remember, but the compactor that we have at the transfer station probably is on its last legs, and I would assume this year or next year you're gonna have to purchase a new one. It used to run, I don't know what it runs now. It used to run about $30,000. You can use the buy board and create some savings by doing that. Or we can shop it around and just put it out on bids. They also will probably need a trash truck either this year or next year, because we do use as a spare an old truck that we bought from Chevronville, I want to say maybe 8 years ago, and it's probably also on its last legs. So we do need to replace some of the equipment on the street. I've already asked utilities to look at what they need to replace, and majority of the things that need to be replaced are either valves, big valves, or pumps. And the pumps can run as high as 20 grand a piece. So it is an expensive proposition, but we're gonna look at it during the budget process. We did commit in a proposal that you have today to settle the issue with Cristo Rey Cemetery. We committed to $50,000 a year, and matched by the county's $50,000 a year to keep and maintain that particular cemetery. And we'll have a report on it a little later on in the agenda, but I think it's on there for you to agree to settle, and Steve's gonna make that presentation to you. And because of what we're gonna do with the cemetery, we probably are gonna have to put up an opaque fence on the transfer station to screen that fence with sheet metal or something, so that the entire tract of land that we currently don't use is allowed to have burial of more bodies in the area. And we have done some work on it now, and we're also trying to list it as a Texas Historic Cemetery, because it is. And that will also go to approval for Texas Historical Commission at some point in the future. That's all.
I have a question.
So what,
Yes.
go ahead,
On
Mr.
the,
Lopez.
on the design of the bedrooms for the Plaza Florida, are we gonna be looking at the same architecture that the gazebo has? On the bedrooms, like the stonework?
Like the what?
Like the stonework that the gazebo has, more or less?
We can.
So what is
I was told by somebody, I don't know,
Okay,
but the gazebo was actually lower,
okay,
in that there was a higher rock elevation.
okay.
And I met with Dorothy Kensel today, and I was provided with 4 photographs of Florence Malsberger that we had previously had one copy, and some of them we didn't have, that we're going to provide to the sculptor so he can look at them. And the lady is the granddaughter, I guess, and she has asked to meet with him so she can talk to him.
So what's the update on the gas line, sir? On the gas line rates, or
We got hit with another increase this month, And I believe last month it was at 0.89, and this month it was at 10. And so we're in the process of trying to find a contract for a long term with either West Texas Gas or someone else, so that we can stabilize the rate and we can set up the price and then work out a mechanism where we can do a pass-through, where we would just add a surcharge to the bill and not increase the rates permanently. So we would just do it at times when the bill was higher than what it should normally be. And we still haven't decided what that number will be, but that number is gonna come to you, so you're gonna say, they say $1, $2, $3, and you say, no, I prefer this one. So you'll make the choice. But it's unfortunate, but that's what it is. The majority of the gas that is going to Corpus is ending up in Europe because of the war.
Councilman, any other questions on departmental and committee reports?
Weather alert.
If not, that's it.
Ahí viene el agua.
Moving on to approval of minutes, June 9th, 2022, June 23rd, 2022. Ms. City Secretary, was any changes being made to the minutes? No? No changes were made to the minutes? Councilman, if there's no questions on the approval of minutes on item number 6, I seek first a motion to approve item number 6.
Aye.
Motion.
First motion by Mr. Zertuche, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7. Discussion and possible action on an ordinance of the City of Cotulla, Texas, amending Code and Ordinance City of Cotulla, Chapter 44, Solid Waste, Article 2, Collection, Division 1, generally, Section 44 through 35, B, use of city collection service, mandatory adding provision allowing for the collection of bundled 3 feet by 5 feet brush stacks, declaring a public purpose, incorporating recital, providing a severability, and setting an effective date.
Mayor, this is a actual amendment to your city code,
Yes.
which incorporates the council's actions at the last meeting to approve 3x5 brush collection. The ordinance is in your packet. It's pretty simple, actually. You can read it. It just says that the 3x5 brush, if it's bundled and placed out for collection next to the residential trash cans, that it will be picked up. And
Yes.
so this will just amend the code of ordinances. My understanding is they're already picking up trash. If they can get it in the can, this will allow them to have a bundle.
Branches picked up.
It doesn't say how many bundles. Hopefully, if
Yeah,
that
as long as
becomes
they're
a-
3x5s.
that becomes an issue, we may have to go back. I mean, somebody's going to have to take some effort to, is this guy going to be out there with a measuring tape? I doubt it, but if it's good enough, I guess they can.
Yeah, it'll be
bundle it.
picked up.
But
The whole idea is to try to keep the community clean. And so it was brought up to council by former Councilman Garcia, and we said we would proceed with an amendment, and this is the amendment.
So you've actually already approved it. but it wasn't in an ordinance, so this just is what you've already done, so,
Yes.
I guess you can approve the form of the ordinance, and it would still be effective on the 23rd. So I don't know if we're already picking them up or not, or if anybody's even.
We
aware.
probably have in the past, but this will just affirm things that we'll just have it picked up anytime the people put it in front and buy their trash can, so.
And they still have the ability to take it themselves to the brush collection site, which most cities have, but you have to have the ability to get it out there.
Right. Councilman, any questions on item number 7?
No, sir.
If not, I seek the first motion to approve item number 7.
All right.
First motion by Mr. Cotulla, I need a second.
A second.
Second by Mr. Hondo Garcia, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 8, presentation of financial statements by Mr. Jorge Flores. Welcome, Mr. Flores.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, good evening. First report is your sales tax report. For the month of July, the city received $142,736. So for the first 10 months of the year, we have collected $1,465,075. So we're on pace to collect about $1,750,000 compared to $1,386,000 last year. So the sales tax has increased drastically from last year.
Just to let you know, Love's came and paid for the permit of their new construction this past week. And their permit was about $18,000. And they're constructing an adjacent building for a mechanical repair, and they paid about $4,000. And they're gonna start work on the project. The lights have already been rerouted. Medina Electric did that, but they're inside the city, so we'll get part of the franchise fee. We'll also get the sales tax and their water and sewer charge as well.
Your next report is the hotel motel tax collection report. For the month of June, the city received $22,713. For the third quarter, $260,838. And for the first 3 quarters of the year, $749,032. So hotel motel, we're on pace to collect about $1 million. And we collected $704,000 last year. Next report is the statement of revenues and expenditures on page number 1, general fund. Total revenues, $2,040,850. On page number 4, total expenses of $2,061,661 for a net loss of $20,811.
And this is where we advanced the money to TxDOT, so we have $500,000 pending that would be added to the revenues of this particular fund, so it would be in the black.
Page number 5 is the water sewer fund. Revenues, $1,315,277. On the next page, total expenses of $1,102,852 for net income of $212,425. Page number 7 is the gas fund. Revenues, $295,246. Expenses of $345,412 for a net loss of $50,165.
And that is primarily due to the increase in gas.
Yes. And we've kept our rates, right, the
Yes.
same for now?
Yes, for now.
For the people? Okay.
And on page number 9, the solid waste fund, revenues $584,262, expenses of $629,863 for a net loss of $35,600. And just to update the council on the new financial software, The conversion is going well. We had a meeting with the people from Edmonds GovTech this week, and we're looking at a go-live date for the financial software of October. Are there any questions?
Councilman, any questions for Mr. Flores on the financial report? Now, Mr. Flores, thank you very much for the report.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 9, discussion and possible action on amending and update the current drought contingency plan ordinance.
We updated the drought conditions. Primarily, we made the changes in the water table, and we're asking the council to approve the measure so that we can reduce the amount of water that is currently being used. We're using about 1.9 million.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
And the last time we did this, we were able to reduce the use to about 1.2 million. So it obviously works, and we're asking for your approval.
Councilman, any questions on item number 9?
On the water restrictions,
Yes.
how soon are we gonna start? Immediately?
If you approve it,
I'm sure that once we approve that, Jimmy and David will get together.
we'll put an ad in the paper, and we'll go into drought restrictions, and many cities like San Antonio already have been doing it for the past month.
I'll entertain a motion.
Yes. First motion is made by Mr. Lopez. I need a second. Second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 10. Discussion and possible action regarding the acquisition of Garlandale water services.
Mayor, this is a project that the city undertook a few years ago.
It's been, what, 2 years already?
Since I've got the 2019.
3.
As maybe some of you know, the county drilled a well a while back. I don't know how long ago, probably 10 years ago or more, to provide potable water, and they created a nonprofit water supply corporation out there to run it. And it basically has its own CCN, which is the area that it serves. Like a lot of these type of corporations, you know, they get started and people move off, or they die, or whatever. And essentially, they've had some difficulty in running the system like they need to.
And the upkeep.
The city, for a period of time, at least since 19 and probably before then, has been actually assisting them in running it. It is crucial to the city to make sure that people who live in places like Gardendale, who attend our schools, who come into the cities, who use the services here, are healthy and are not sick because they're drinking bad water and getting everybody else sick. So even though it's not in the city has a big interest in it, and there really is only the city and the county to try to help them to deal with it. The county, I believe, paid for the well to drill it and set this thing up. I think Eddie Lopez, who's long deceased,
Long gone, yes.
was kind of spearheading all of that, and I don't know who else is. I think, is it Frankie Flores?
Frankie Flores, yes.
Right. Is he still over the city?
He retired.
Okay. So anyway,
Been about 2 weeks.
we couldn't get the votes to acquire the system last time. Basically, what you would be acting upon tonight is approving the purchase and the sales contract. They're there would basically be no purchase price. That I'm aware of, there's no debt out there. If there is debt, you would acquire the debt with the purchase, but the servicing of the debt would be maintained by the water system. So the ratepayers, if it's bonded indebtedness, which I don't know whether there is or there isn't any, those ratepayers continue to pay that. That doesn't become an obligation of the city, because that debt's already. Basically, when you buy an asset and if money's owed on it, you buy the asset and you owe the money. So I don't know. Are we aware if there's any
No,
debt?
they don't have any debt. In fact, I think the last repair that was done to their water lines, Jorge, did you do that?
Yes, I was part of it. So, sorry for the record, Jorge Martinez. My former employer, we did a lot of work on those water lines. We did do some pump upgrades to that system. So there are some new things that were added to it at some part of that grant. If I remember right, it's a few million, I think is what it came down to. But there has been upgrades.
But it was a county grant.
County got a grant and helped perform that.
Have they ever extended water line across 35?
No, it was discussions on that, but it never got done.
So there's a potential, I guess, if you acquired it. And I don't know where the CCN is on it, but you can apply to the TCEQ to get it bigger.
Well, actually, you applied to the PUC
Okay.
to get the CCN to extend into that area, and then you become the exclusive provider, and you are the party that will supply the manufacturing guys that are around you.
So all of that area in there, I don't know how much water you could possibly sell over there. I don't know what those guys are doing there now. They're probably not complying with TCEQ rules.
They are complying because we've been operating the system since 2019 under the direction of council. So we collect all their bills and we do all their maintenance.
Right. So my question is, the people on the other side in that Gardendale
I don't know
industrial
how they get
district,
water.
and who knows what they're doing there. So that's a potential for additional revenue if you ever wanted to do that. The city, if you look at the way the city's laid out now, you have the new Loop. Rodriguez Loop, which the city could annex. There's a requirement that the county has to approve it in order for us to do it. We actually asked for that permission, and there was no approval granted.
Well, I think there was a commitment by text out to the county that they would maintain the road for a certain period of time, and the county was afraid that would be jeopardized by the city annexing. So the judge asked that we hold back on doing the annexation until that was clear, and that once that was clear, to go forward. So in the latest annexation, we did all of the easements that were alongside that loop and the easement that comes from the airport. So we actually did a square on from the airport along the loop up 97, which has the water lines, and those were annexed into the city.
So let's think about this. If you do this tonight, there is a possibility in the future, as the city grows, that it extends its limits out far enough to you may be able to grab some of that area up there if you wanted to. It depends on what actually happens down the road. I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't do it, but having a functioning water system there, and my understanding is they also are now getting garbage collection.
We do have some garbage containers that we have out there,
Right.
and there are requests from the citizens of that area to increase our garbage service.
So these are possible areas of future growth. And so you acquire the asset in municipal government. Typically because of legal requirements, if you want to have growth, you have to have public water supply systems. You need public sewer systems at some point, and growth will typically follow where those services are available, which is why you have the Loves down here now, which is why you have all the things that you're seeing around the city have grown, because they are obtaining city services. Now this would, if you acquire it, it would become, I guess, a separate department in the city, or
No,
how-
it
it's
would be
part of the water?
operated under the same department.
Okay. So anyway, it's something that was considered before. Now, if you approve the contract to buy it, the board approves it, they still have to have an election up there. The people that live there have to vote to do this. And it's a majority of the people who show up at the meeting to approve the sale. So I don't know how many people are there, but if they get 5 people there and 4 vote for it, or 3, it gets sold. It's a fairly simple process. One of the other things, which is the next agenda item, is I think the citizens need to understand, or the citizens of Gardendale, that if they don't do this, then the city can't continue to do what it's doing. So they don't have to sell it, but if they don't, then they're going to have to run the Water Supply Corporation on their own, because the city is essentially doing something that it can do, but it really needs to formalize the process, get it within the municipal operating system, and do all the things that it needs to do, so that you don't have this thing that's not in the city that we're working on.
We've been friendly neighbors for 3 years, and it's now come a time to decide whether we're going to go through with the acquisition or whether we're going to go ahead and back away.
So
But we can't continue
just
the way we're doing it
to
now.
add to that, we did approve garbage collection for there. I think there's a roll-off somewhere, and then there's one in Fowlerton too.
That was done through Commissioner's
Right.
Court.
So one of the things that I think is important, and I think everybody here understands, that these people that live there, they don't just live there and never come to town. You know, they're your neighbors. They're not citizens of the city of Cotulla, because we don't, that part's not within the incorporated city limits. But everything they do affects us. If they send their kids to school, they go to our hospital. We don't have a hospital, but they go to our doctors. You know, keeping people healthy is always a good idea. And some of the people that live in these areas are among those that may otherwise not have full access to services all the time. So water is really important, and it really is something that needs to be taken care of, which is why we've done what we've done. So tonight you would be asked to approve the contract, the sales contract. We'll contact them, we'll go through and see if they approve it. And then this next agenda item is talking about the operating agreement that we have with them. And essentially, one is that they're tied together. And I think people will vote for it. I mean, why do they want it? I mean, there may be a little bit of revenue. I think if it's run correctly.
Yeah, they're.
Well, it was their own people that suggested that we run it, because they couldn't run it properly. They were having issues.
It was their own board.
Yeah.
But you got to get the people to vote.
So now it's time to take it over, like you said.
Right.
Or hand it to us. Councilman, any questions on item number 10? Any other questions on the Garandale WSE? Nope. If not, I seek a first motion to approve item number 10.
I motion.
First motion by Mr. Rodriguez. I need a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Handel Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 11, which is tied into 10. Discussion and possible action to continue operating or the operations of Garandale WSC system.
I spoke to my law partner, Patrick Lindner, before the meeting. He's our water guy. it's his suggestion that the city continue to operate it until the 1st of October. Now that we've approved the sales contract, and basically say, look, you guys need to follow through with this, get this approved.
And you got so much
and
time.
give them a deadline. Otherwise, things don't get done. I believe we did approve an operating agreement with
We did.
them.
We did.
I'm not sure when that terminates.
It doesn't have a
Okay.
termination.
Okay, so I would tell whoever's running the thing out there now, and I guess Mr. Flores still lives there, contact them, let them know, hey, we approved it. Let's have a meeting. Let's get the ballot. I have the ballots. We have to mail them out to the people, get them to show up. You sign them in, and basically you would dissolve the corporation. The city takes it over. There's some regulatory things that have to be done, but we need to get the individuals who are living there now and receiving services to approve it first. And once they've done that, then we can take the ball and run with it.
Councilman, any other questions on item number 11? Not, I seek a first motion to approve item number 11.
First motion.
First motion by Mr. Rodriguez. I need a second.
And so that
Second
would
by
be
Mr. Sertuche.
to run it until October 1, pending the sale.
Correct.
Okay.
That would be run it all the way to October 1st,
Yes.
pending the sale. I don't think there would be any issues on that, but anyways, second motion was made by Mr. Sertuche. All opposed say nay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to item number 12, discussion and possible action on a process for implementation of an interlocal agreement with the operations of Cristo Rey Cemetery, including survey requirements and management.
Okay, last Thursday, Judge Wilson approved the final judgment in the matter of the Cristo Rey Cemetery that the county brought a few years ago. It's actually been kind of hanging around for a while. And essentially what it has done now is it has ordered the management committee that was created by the interlocal agreement that we entered into with the county in 2018. It was approved by the city on October 18th of 2018. They're basically going to be running the Cristo Rey. So you all should have a copy of the resolution, a copy of the agreement. One of the requirements for the
It's this one.
one of the requirements of the judgment
You have
was
this?
that we have a survey done within a year, I believe, and that we
That's
have a registry for new burials created within a year. Now, the interlocal agreement requires, there's 5 people that are supposed to be appointed. I don't know if we have all 5 of them yet. I think we appointed Jerry, didn't we?
Yes, Jerry Garza.
Yeah, Jerry Garza. The order says Unia Flores is going to be on there. Now, we can't appoint him because we only get to appoint one. My understanding is that the Catholic Church, the Baptist Church, the county church, and then one at large. So 5 people. They're supposed to meet twice a year. We're supposed to keep minutes of it. We're supposed to post notice of the meeting. So what I'm thinking is a good time to make sure you've done all the things you're supposed to do during the year is during the budget season. So they can have their meeting in August and then have another meeting in, say, March. They don't really have to do too much. And what I would think we do is we actually have the meeting within our meeting. We open our meeting and then we adjourn, then we have their part, and then we come back into our meetings. Because if we don't do it that way, nothing's ever going to get written down. Nobody's going to know who's doing what, and it's going to devolve back into the mess that it was for the last 80 years out there. The interlocal agreement, you can read it for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. Basically, the management committee is supposed to prepare a budget. They're not going to know how to do that, so the city in the ordinance, in the agreement, will help them, will provide services to them. There is supposed to be funding made available from the oil and gas lease that covers the 10 acres that the Mexican colony owned in the now shuttered landfill. It's probably minimal. I wouldn't think it's very much money that has been coming in, but there may be some money on deposit. We need to figure that out. And then, of course, there's going to be a need to fund the cemetery. Currently, I don't know if you have a new burial in the cemetery. Is anybody paying for the spots?
Probably not. They probably go to the nursing home. I mean, not the nursing home, the funeral home.
Right. And I know the county was using it for indigent burials. I was actually I have to go to the funeral home tomorrow to pick something up. I'm going to drop this off with Mr. Agüero, who I have gotten to know over the last few years, and say, look, this is the new rules. I don't know how many burials occur at Cristo Rey.
The green spots didn't come out. No.
You all should have a aerial survey.
It's actually a survey that we did with ground penetrating radar to determine the area that had bodies, and we have little green dots that are areas that have been disturbed that don't have monuments because somebody just went and buried them. And so we're currently in the process of having it designated as a Texas Historical Cemetery. And Terry Myers, you hired to do that work, and Jerry Garza is helping her. And that's what we're trying to do, is catalog the areas that have been used. I think in the agreement, it talks about where you see at the top that it says existing fence. I think we agreed to extend the burial area all the way to the transfer station fence. And so that'll give them some additional growth in the future, and it'll give us a chance to be able to work out the cemetery. We do have a water well at the transfer station, but ultimately we would probably want to bring a water line along Guadalupe to cut across 624 to go across to the cemetery to provide them water. They currently don't have water, and the majority of the poor people of this community are buried here.
But that wasn't always the case. The case previous to, I would say within the last 30 or 40 years, was there were no burials over here on this side of 81. Now we have the old Cotulla Cemetery and whatever they call the other cemetery that's there. I'm not even
I think it's Sacred Heart.
Well, Sacred Heart's over here.
Yeah, it's on the other side.
What is the newer cemetery called? The one by the city?
It's Cotulla East.
Is that the county
Yeah.
that runs that?
No. It's run by a cemetery association. I think the current chair is Cameron Bell.
Okay. So at one time, we all know the story about who got buried out there. So whether you were rich or not, that's where you were going, at a certain time. That thankfully is not the case anymore, and that's the reason why Mr. Dovalina believes that we would get the historical designation, which it does deserve. I don't know how many of y'all go out there. It really is in pretty bad shape. And so this is an opportunity to, to make it nicer. And if you did make it nicer, I think you would have more burials there. I think some of the reasons why there are no burials here is because it's really not nice. But I think also with the interlocal agreement, we're going to have to set up a system where we're actually, funeral home's going to have to come to the city and get a permit to go out there and inter people. I don't know how we're going to do that exactly. I mean, what's going to happen? But right now, if you go out there, you'll see people putting T-posts and ropes. Like, hey, this is mine. And I think at some point, people actually did pay for some of that land. Who they were paying, where that money ever went, we're never going to know.
I think at the time, I was serving on the committee at the time, there was no, what you call verification, no record keeping, did not exist at all. There was individuals just collecting money left and right from individuals, and they were being buried there. There were no, in other words, to me it was poor record keeping, in my opinion. I served in the committee for a time, and I withdrew my appointment to the committee, and I turned over every single financial records and any receipts and everything. We turned it over to the county judge at the time.
So
because there was no way of people that they had no proof of receipt that they had paid for the plots at all.
How
they were
long
just
ago
taking them at random.
How long ago did you give that to them?
I think maybe about 10 years ago.
Okay, so they should have whatever those records are.
What the attempt by the county when they filed suit, and then we joined in, because I later found out we actually owned the land, and they mistakenly used our land instead of using their own land, and so we had to agree to the process. We actually get mineral rights from this property, and the lease for mineral rights on this land was just renewed. So I would assume that the 10 acres that the county has also just been renewed, and it's an attempt to bring order to the chaos so that we, in fact, from this point forward, run it as a cemetery and keep the cost as low as possible for people that are needy, who don't have the means to be. You heard what he said about T-poles and rope. There are some people that don't have any money. Somebody dies and they have a hard time. And so we're trying to help the situation and create a little bit more space and create it in an orderly way.
It's not an unattractive place. If you cleaned it up, get rid of some of the brush, put some rules in there, I think my understanding
Could
is
be a real nice cemetery.
My understanding is that we're running out of burial space anyway in the existing cemeteries. I think the county's gonna, or whoever owns that area down Baylor Street where that old RV park, I think is gonna be opened up for burials. But you could very well turn it into a nice cemetery. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's no more trash being burned at the dump. I mean, it's not bad. It's actually kind of it's very historic looking, and it speaks to a chapter in the history of LaSalle County. And I think we owe it to some of those people that are buried in there were very important people in this county. Some of these people, when this was created, they were the ones that helped build certain parts of the city and did a lot. If you look at our resolution, if you look at the mediated settlement agreement, it talks about that. And so, anyway, basically, it's going to be a process. I don't know what's it going to cost to run the place?
I think when we were talking about the agreement, when we were in mediation, we agreed to provide $50,000 a year, and the county agreed to match it. And I just asked Jorge to go ahead and put the money in there as an item so we can start fixing the roads and doing things that need to be done, so that the whole area becomes more attractive.
Needs proper fencing. It needs proper water. There's no garbage. There's no dumpster. There's no nothing out there. People just throw stuff in the corner.
We throw it on the other corner over there,
And the water's
Yeah.
coming.
on the other side of the cemetery.
If you
Yeah.
walk around
Throw
there,
it.
you'll see cracked headstones that get thrown in the corner. You know,
Tires.
Can we put like a dumpster right there in the corner where people throw it? They are
Yeah.
gonna throw it anyways.
Well, this is an interlocal agreement to bring order to the thing and to help. And so anything that we can do to help is certainly possible.
lighting. You know,
Yeah.
there's no reason why there can't be some lights out there. You know, I mean,
I agree.
there are things that need to be done. Mr. Dovalina and I spoke many times about, you know, some of the adjacent property, acquiring some of that property, you know, and taking it up to the road, you know, and making space available. If you look at this survey, it really doesn't have much more room in there.
Except the area between the transfer station and the fence that is currently there, if no one is buried there, because we don't know that, because we didn't check that area. So it would be the top part of your map that we're talking about. You see most of the space is down here under that road, and then the other area is the one that has the T-poles and the fences. And we would, as part of the agreement to bring this to a close, we would give them the additional land for additional burial space. But if we have to buy land, then we would need to buy the land that's adjacent to the left side of your page all the way to 624, so we could continue the area. The land that was intended for the cemetery was given back in the 30s to what is described in the deed as the Mexican colony of Cotulla. And again, a lot of people are buried here. It's something that you want to fix. You want to give them perpetual care so that it's something decent and nice, and that they have water and access to the areas. At one time, there was an organization here related to Woodmen of the World, and if you go out and look at the monuments I have, and you can see their monuments that they got as part of that group. You also see some Woodmen of the World monuments in different styles that are here at Cotulla East, where other people are buried. And about a block from Plaza Florita is the original headquarters of the camp of Woodmen of the World, which Mr. Peña's grandfather was the commander. What did they call it?
Great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather. What was that title? What were they called?
I don't recall. I gave a bunch of documents to Jerry. They actually have dues books and stuff from the early 1900s.
It's called a camp something.
Yeah.
And there actually was a camp of people that when they paid dues and that when they died, they were entitled to this tombstone. And it's organization that is still active today. It's based out of Omaha, Nebraska.
And
How they got here, I have no idea.
one of the things that I think is important to know is that many of the people, probably all of them, that were buried there, you know, nobody was ever going to help them. They banded together to help themselves, and they created things like these lodges, and they paid $1 or $2 a month, which was probably a fortune for most of them, because they knew that if they died, there would be a small policy that would pay for a funeral or whatever. And people like that are to be admired because they didn't expect that the government was just going to come in and bury them. You know, I mean, they planned for. These are very proud people, very, very many of them, and I think they are very honorable people. I've walked around there many times, and I know a lot of the names that I've seen there. You know, so anyway,
They were commonly known as the Hacheros.
one question: if we expand it to the back, you have to clear the brush and then do the brown pen.
Yeah, we've got
Move the
equipment to
fence.
do that. But we would need to be able to put up the fence so that we could shield them from whatever the burial site was going to be.
Since I asked Jorge to be here, and I don't
He's
know
right there.
if he has anything to add or maybe some ideas or.
I just, if the council does approve it, on the newer section that you're referencing, I think we would need to, or recommend that you lay out the plots for the new area so it's a little bit more structured, more organized. I know the existing one will be very difficult because, you know, other cities have surveyors that are in-house that they go mark everything, but if we can come up with a layout, and I say that because I just did that for the other one over here off of over here by the TxDOT. They're looking at expanding, and so we're doing like a plot to show like a future expansion. So it's something to consider for council to consider in the future.
Would you recommend like actually going in and put curbing in there where you can show where the plots are? That way.
I think that helps structure it for the long term. As you know, like these roads exist, they're just dirt roads, and over time you lose track as to where it is. But at least setting some kind of monument corners, like you can actually set some physical concrete in the ground to depict the actual corners of the blocks. You'll call it, it's like a subdivision. You have lots and blocks, same thing. It's just something like that would be ideal. Maybe not necessarily pave the road or anything, but at least something more permanent.
One of the things that the management committee could decide to do is not allow any new burials in there except in existing family location. If you walk around there, you'll see the same names, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can.
Well, I think if you try to do a moratorium, you're going to hurt some people, and I wouldn't want to do that. It's a touchy situation, and I think we need to go along and make the improvements, form the committee, get the process going, and say, on this date when you're ready, moving forward, this is what we're going to do.
Well, let me ask you a practical question, Jorge. If somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to bury somebody out there, you know, I'm going to put them there, you know, there's no marker, there's no nothing, we don't know where there corresponds to this. How do we make sure there's not something?
In a perfect situation, you'd have a surveyor, an in-house surveyor that can mark it permanently for that specific day.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect situation, but I understand too. I mean, like, you know, I'm familiar with this in Laredo just because we just did that with my mother-in-law, and they stake out exactly where you need to be, and that's your limits. You can't extend it or do anything, and it's just a matter of understanding how the city wants to pursue that. If they want to make it very exact or very, you know, because it's going to lose structure.
Well, one of the other things you need to think about too is don't just let any old buddy go out there and start digging graves.
No,
You know,
but
I think the
but
city
if
needs
you have
to
an
do-
emergency, you need
Right.
to be ready to take care of the emergency.
I think the city or the county needs to be the individuals that go out there
And whatever money is paid, if you set a payment structure, which I'm sure they do, you would put it in some sort of fund so that you could continue to make improvements to the cemetery.
Because I don't know how the funeral home goes out there now and decides where they're going to bury somebody. You know, I mean, how do they know what's there? They're not doing a survey.
Is it the same people that go out there and do it, or is it different people every time?
No, I think it's the same people that go.
Peters does most of the burials here. And like when Juan died and we buried him over here,
Yeah.
who was the operator of the backhoe? Who that just somebody that
I think they call somebody from San Antonio or something. Don't
I
they?
think they come out of Pearson.
They come,
Garza.
they come out of town, right?
Actually, they're out of Divine. Actually,
Garza.
they're out of Divine.
Well, I know Mario Agüero pretty well now.
But this is a start.
And I'm going to take all this stuff to him and say, look, you need to look at this. You need to come to the city and understand. And there's another guy named Roy Black down there at the funeral home. Those are the two directors.
Yeah, but he works for Mario.
Yeah. And just say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then maybe we need a best practices. We don't want something terribly complicated, but we need system and we need order.
In fact, before we remove the fence, maybe we ought to work on improving the other track that is not open yet and fixing it. And then after you fix it, you remove the fence and you catalog everybody else.
Is there any concern if there's any burials in that segment of the area? Like, do we need to go do
We do need to go do the same thing we did with the other, because who knows what happened.
I suspect not. The first burials were like 1932, 33.
They're in the front.
Yeah. And if you go right now on the computer and look, put Cristo Rey Cemetery, somebody catalog that. Who that was, I don't know. I think Nora May might have.
Nora May did.
But where did she get the information from?
I understand that there's somebody.
Did a lot of research.
I understand there's somebody named Gonzalez that had some sort of catalog.
I have no idea.
Is that possible?
The person that I know that's Gonzalez might be Commissioner Carlos Gonzalez, because he was a county commissioner.
He was a commissioner at
Yes.
one time.
Yes, sir.
I mean, those records are detailed. They show the date of birth, the date of burial. I mean,
That was no way.
somebody spent some time
research.
doing that. That
Yeah.
took a lot of work because you can't read those gravestones.
She did that out of after she got retired. It's a passion.
So
just know you're not alone. You know, other small communities have the same issue. Dilly had the same thing recently.
And I think that this would be you may just designate this as the historic part, and while you may not prohibit burials there, you would encourage people to be buried in the new part where it's more organized, and you would basically have two sections of the cemetery.
Councilman, any other questions on item number 12? If not, I seek a first motion to approve item number 12. First motion by Mr. Lopez. I need a second. Second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 13, discussion with possible action on an application and certification for payment number 15 submitted by McGuire Iron in the amount of $20,144.75 for the airport elevated storage tank project.
This is just information. You've already approved it. But this is part of their retainage as they complete the project.
Councilman, if there's no further discussion or questions on item number 13, I seek a first motion to approve item number 14. Item number 13. First motion by Mr. Santucci. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hondo Garcia. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 14, discussion possible action on a contractor's application payment number 9 submitted by Briscoe Architectural Conservation in the amount of $39,782 for the Stockman's Bank Phase 2.
And again, we're nearing completion as we do the finishes, but you're welcome to go and to see what's been done to the building, and they can tell you what they've actually done to the building as we move toward final completion. The area that is lacking is obviously the one with the air conditioning, but electrical is in, the bathrooms are being done, which they didn't have any bathrooms. The only thing that we have not done anything on is the actual safe. I think it had a bronze eagle or something on that safe and somebody took it. It may have been brass, I don't know.
Councilman, if there's no further discussion on item number 14, I seek a first motion to approve item number 14.
I motion.
First motion by Mr. Rodriguez, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cotulla, all in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 15, discussion and possible action on a contractor's application for payment number 9 submitted by Sales Construction in the amount of $120,951 for the Pool Street and water line improvements.
We're trying to close out this project. I also believe that this is a retainage, but when we pay this, we have a credit coming back to us of $83,000, which is pending from South Construction.
Excellent. Councilman, if there's no further discussion on item number 15, I seek a first motion to approve item number 15.
So move motion.
First motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 16, discussion and possible action to approve contractor's payment request number 2 in the amount of $86,574.65 for the Cotulla Ortiz drainage improvements. I believe this one was already discussed also on the departmental and committee reports. So I need a first motion to approve item number 16.
So move.
First motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 17, report on LSCAD year 2023 proposed budget first draft. Councilman, did you have a chance to look over item number 17? That's just a report,
Yeah, we
no
just,
action needed on that?
and we really don't have a vote on the appraisal district because we don't have a big enough tax roll to elect a representative. So usually Alfredo Zamora, we combine with the county and with Incidental to elect Alfredo Zamora with our 3 votes, and the school allows us to do that. But this is their first draft of a budget, and I just presented it to you for information.
Councilman, no action is needed on item number 17. Is there any questions? There's no further questions on item number 17. That was just a report. Moving on to item number 18, closed session. It is now 8:34. Closed session reads as A, Text Government Code and Section 551.071, 1 and 2, consultation with attorney, line item B, Text Government Code and Section 551.072, deliberation about real property. C, Text Government Code and Section 551.073, 1.074, personal matters. So we are now in closed session at 8:34. All right, everybody, we are back into open session. It is now 9:15. No action was taken on any of the items on 18 in closed session. So line item number 19 reads open session. Open session, the city council will reconvene into a session to discuss any action taken on closed session items. 18A, B, and C, and there was no action needed, so,
Yes. On the real estate, you need to make a motion to approve the advertising.
very correct. On real property, on line item number 18, letter B, we need to do a notice on the newspaper for that real property to sell. I need a first motion to approve that. First motion made by Mr. Sartucci, second by Mr.
Can
Rodriguez.
Identify the property.
You identify the property,
What's that, sir?
you need to identify the property.
And those properties are Ortiz, the property of Ortiz,
In golf.
and the other one is on Golf.
No.
The backside of Golf, no?
It's Ortiz and Golf, the corner of Ortiz and Golf,
Saltillo.
and the back lot
Saltillo.
on
The back-
Saltillo.
the
and
back-
and
okay, the Saltillo area, yes.
That was used for drainage.
Well, those two properties are gonna be placed for auction, so need to instruct staff to move forward on placing it for advertisement on the paper.
For
So
bids.
first, for bids, first motion is made by Mr. Sartucci, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 20. This meeting is adjourned, and it is now 9:17.